Okay, folks, we continue in the 20th letter. Powerful letter about the uniqueness of creation of a physical world in particular, which then would lead us to appreciate the mitzvahs that are done with physical objects. So we're going to go deeper into some Hasidic geography to understand the power of Creator within creation. Koyach hapoel benifal, as it's said in Hebrew. And to understand the creative process in a more nuanced manner. We spoke about the sphera of Malchus, the divine attribute of Malchus, which the light and the vessels of Malchus of Atzilus are one with God, and they have the power of the Creator to create. Why Malchus? Why sovereignty? Why kingship? Because there's no king without a nation. That is the 10th and final divine attribute. In us, Malchus, the power of the soul, that we have a part of God within us, is the power of our behavior, thought, speech, and action. That's what we have sovereignty over. In God, this aspect is God's desire to be a king over his nation. And it is the power of the king that through his speech he rules. So it's the word of God that is animating. A desire to create separate beings, that those separate beings should then come to recognize that they're not really separate from God. It's only from our perspective, and that we have a desire to seek the presence of God in creation, in us, through Torah and Mitzvahs, to connect to him. That is some of the basic ideas that we've learned previously. Now, Malchus of Atzilus. Atzilus is a world of emanation. It's a world of godliness. The 10 divine attributes, both the vessels and the lights, as we've explained previously, are completely divine, meaning they're bound up with God, one with God, and have the power within them to the creative force. Now it is specifically Malchus, as Malchus unites the feminine aspect of the divine with the male aspect of the divine, which is Zah, Zera, Ampin, small faces, the 6 preceding emotive attributes, which are masculine. Through that union, there is then begets, it creates. So now we're going to understand this in a more profound idea of how the kav is translated as a word, means line, but the kav is the power of God, the source of finitude. It's the source, but itself is, even though we called it a line, translated as a line, it is before creation there was only the Ein Sof, limitlessness of God. He contracted upon and created a void, that from there came a kav. And we're just going to use the word kav so we don't get confused. That kav is a true reflection of the Ein Sof ultimately, and has, of course, within it the power vested in it of creation, something from nothing. It vests itself. It finds itself in Malchus of Atzilus in 3 different dimensions. And three different dimensions, then we will have 3 different results in creation. So the first is what we call a radiation of the kav. Radiation means that it's not the kav itself, but it's what radiates from the kav. Just like the sun and what radiates from the sun. So what radiates from the a 1 degree of radiation, we'll call it the first degree of radiation, It radiates itself in the 30 vessels of Malchus of Atzilus, right, into the vessels, as we've explained before. And from that radiation, together with the Kav, it splits, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right word, or pierces the division between the emanated world, Atzilus, and now into the created worlds, which are the created worlds are three basic worlds: Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Creation, formation, and world of action. Spiritual worlds, and of course this physical world, which we'll get to shortly. As it pierces it into the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, it vests itself into the neshama level of the light of the divine attributes, which is divinity proper itself in the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Meaning it really doesn't change its essence. The essence of the way it was in Atzilus remains the same essence in the world of Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya, of the divine power, and from it, creating and animating the things that populate those three worlds. The power to create and animate those things in those spiritual worlds. We're only speaking about spiritual worlds right now. Then we have a second dimension, a second degree of irradiation, which is a radiation of a radiation. So this is further removed. The power of the Kav, which is again the power of the Ein Sof, that now finds itself not in the divinity of those worlds, but finds itself in the divine attributes, but in the vessels and the light that is of Nefesh Ruach, the two lower dimensions. Something we spoke about earlier at great length. There's three dimensions of the soul within us. The reason why? Because in the divine, there are three dimensions of light and vessel, how they come together, right? Which is body and soul, like in us, how they come together. So there's three dimensions: Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. The Neshama level in the world of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, which are created worlds, is divine proper. It's the same essence. That's why it's one radiation. But a radiation of a radiation, it's no longer the same essence. Although externally it expresses itself similarly. So the attributes there on the dimension of Nefesh Ruach, of the two lower dimensions of the light of the divine attribute, and the vessels, the complete dimensions of the vessels, are now externally look, so to speak, like it's divine, but really it's not divine, because it's a radiation of the Kav. So it doesn't have the same, it's not of the same essence. It is of the same quality, or externally there's an appearance that's the same. And that is that is now enabling to give to creation divine purpose. This aspect of the creative process is what gives purpose to anything and everything of creation. Why? Because there's still a spiritual quality here. There's still a spiritual quality, and that spiritual quality therefore gives purpose. It doesn't give complete connection to the divine, but it's that there is indeed divine purpose. And of course, there's a divine intent. And that's explained by the fact that this level comes from a primordial thought of primordial man, Adam Kadmon, as it's explained. And therefore, that radiation of the radiation in creation, which is the three basic worlds, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, give, again, purpose. It's not of the essence of the divine, because the essence of divine doesn't need purpose. It doesn't need to strive for purpose, because it is itself divine. That's the radiation. Now, the first level we spoke about, but on this level, there is a sense of purpose in everything that is created. Okay, now we go to a third dimension of the Kav, which again goes by way of Malchus, the union of Malchus with Zoh, Malchus of Atzilus, and it is now a radiation of a radiation of a radiation, which means it's no longer the essence of divine. It's no longer even has an external appearance of divine, even though not essentially divine, and therefore imbuing creation with purpose, divine purpose. This level is now the source of creating yesh, substantial being that is not sensing its divinity, not sensing even purpose, sensing its own selfhood, sensing that it is a thing unto its own. This comes because the light is encompassing and therefore not permeating the creation from within, that they should sense either purpose or, beyond that, divinity. And since it is an encompassing light, so like a circle, the top is found more in the bottom, even though the circle is equal, but the top and the bottom have a commonality. So the top is radiates and finds expression in the bottom, the lowest level. This is the idea of primordial man, is meaning the original thought of God. We call it primordial for metaphorically primordial man. The original thought is found in the feet, in the end of man, just like there's the head found in the feet. The feet is the lowest, right? So when you have an encompassing light, so it encompasses everything equally, but the top will be wedged, or the beginning is wedged in the end, the concept that we've spoken about previously. And what this means, in this third manner, that manifests itself in the lowest of all elements of creation. This is now expressing itself in this physical world. As opposed to the other two elements of the radiation of the Kav, radiation of a Kav, they are more of a spiritual quality that radiates creation. Divinity, the first level, and second level, divine purpose. Divinity itself is beyond even purpose. It's not not needing to seek purpose. It's beyond purpose, so to speak. The first level. Second level, since it's not divinity itself, so then it finds it's the creative quality of the kav that vests again in Malchus and the of Atzilus that comes into Bria Yitzir Asiya, that is responsible to endowing purpose. But it's also something of the spirit. This last level, which is the essence of the Ein Sof itself, that's beyond space. Kav, there is like beginning, middle, and end, so to speak, in a sense. But this is the Ein Sof. It is encompassing in a manner that the beginning is wedged in the end. So where is the end? Is in this world. But in this world, there are 4 basic elements. There is fire, air, water, and earth. Fire and air are more insubstantial, being, it's air and it's fire, right? Especially fire, it wants to go upwards. Water is more substantial, but it's not the lowest element. It's not the heaviest. Earth is, in this physical world, that dimension. So where is the power of Creator that creates something from nothing, and this is this element that is the encompassing power of God, the Sovev, it reflects itself, it mirrors itself in earth. And hence, what do we find in earth? That it reflects the power of Creator that creates something from nothing. Even though humans and animals reproduce themselves, but from time to time, you don't see as clearly on an ongoing, constant basis the power of Creator within creation as you do in Mother Earth, where you take a seed, that seed rots, and from it, voila, a fruit-bearing tree. Vegetation comes forth, springs forth. The reason why that is in the earth, because the earth we step upon, it's the lowest, it's where our feet goes. And that's where the feet of Adam Kadmon, meaning the beginning is wedged in the end, reflects itself in the power that's there, that is a greater power than anywhere else in the physical earth. And hence there's another quality that, as a result, metaphorically, this is the idea of like the sun, its rays hit Mother Earth. And therefore, the warmth of the sun is greater on Earth than it is in the higher parts of the atmosphere. Why? Because there is this concept of Or Chayzer. As the light hits, it reflects back. And therefore, there's something more powerful in the reflection back of this divine light as it's reflected in earth. And hence, the physical world, the physicality of the world. Again, air is not as physical, fire is not as physical, and in a sense, water is also not as physical, right? It's water. It's physical. And so is fire, obviously. You put your finger in a fire, right? So I'm not saying that it's not physical, but it does, first of all, it's not the lowest part. It doesn't represent or doesn't have the power of Creator within it as Mother Earth does. And therefore, the Kav, which is only array of array of array, which means it doesn't have the essence of the divine. It doesn't even have purpose and meaning yet, meaning that it's creating something that by its outward nature, we would think that this is a creation that is independent, has always been. You know, when you look at the earth, you don't feel intuitively that there is, you know, it's always been here. Predates me, predates all of us. It's always has been. We don't have a sense that it is rooted in its source and therefore it's nullified to its source. We have to learn Tanya for that. Yes, we look at nature and we sense that there's a creator. But that's the wonderment of creation, that we see, that we sense creator, which is wonderful. We need to. But in the physical of the physical itself, there isn't that wonderment naturally until we kind of teach ourselves. And therefore, there isn't a sense of divine purpose. There isn't a sense of divinity. There's a sense of a world that exists because it exists. But really, what is it? When we look deeper, we can see that it's really the power of Creator who's creating something from nothing, as is reflected in Mother Earth itself. We need to reflect upon that, and therefore to understand that really it is coming from a deeper place. Just as God himself, there's nothing that preceded him. He creates the world in a way that is from him, in the way we just explained of the Kav, from the divine attributes, Malchus in particular, as it's united in a union with Zoh, that then begets in different dimensions creation, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiya, and then finally this world, the physical world, and the physicality of this world, the earth itself, the element of earth. And again, this is the idea of the beginning being wedged in the end. I hope that was clear, because it is very abstract, very powerful though. And through this, yes, to know Hashem, Lori, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm looking just to see if there's any comments, any questions. All right, thank you everybody for the blessings. Beautiful. A very nuanced idea, very abstract. I try to bring it down to earth as best as I could, hopefully. And most importantly, you know, even if we don't get it totally, which totally we don't, but at least even if the fact that we're engaging into knowing God as creator within creation, and that we're trying to wrap our minds around it, that itself is amazing and it's wonderful. That itself is that we're engaging our mind rather than, engaging it in trivial pursuits, or even if it's important pursuits. But it's not about knowing God. There's something very profound and beautiful about engaging in it, even if we don't completely get it. Now, of course, we got to try the best we can to understand that. That goes without saying. But don't feel at a loss or a complete loss if you don't get it totally, or you're missing some points, or something's not clear. It's okay. Either listen again, learn it inside maybe. There it might be a little more difficult because I didn't use some of the terminology that's used there. But in just the effort itself is remarkable. Totally remarkable. And with that, I bid everybody a wonderful day, a good yontif. These are days, as we mentioned earlier, in the name of God, 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, as we prepare for Zman Simchasenu, a time of rejoicing. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day.